Hey, welcome to CapX Cards. Today we have a 6-card PSA grade reveal for vintage cards, mostly, I think almost entirely from the 70s. So we'll walk through that. If you're new to the channel, I do these vintage cards. I source them on eBay. I source them at card shows, all different places. Now, the goal with these cards is not necessarily to get a PSA 10. In fact, I really don't expect that at all. These cards are, basically 50-some years old. But the math from an ROI standpoint or even a break-even standpoint really centers around PSA 8's. PSA 9s would be nice too in some cases. But the problem is here lately, I've been getting a lot more 6s and 7s. So it's making the math not work out. And spoiler alert, in today's episode, that trend continues despite me taking a little more time to inspect the cards. So obviously my process needs to be reevaluated. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's jump into these cards. And reminder, if you do see something you like on here for a Christmas gift or whatever, they're all available on my eBay store. Link is in the description. I think everything on today's episode is under, I would say it's under $80 easy. These are nice cards from like a collectible standpoint, but the ROI standpoint on getting them graded has been pretty much a failure at this point. All right, first card up here today, we have a 1974 Topps Tom Seaver. And on this one, I knew that it was slightly off-centered. I zoomed in too far, but this side down here is a little thin. You can see the horizontal picture here. So obviously off-centered. However, the corners and stuff were in pretty good shape. I thought it had a crack at an 8, but, if you happen to notice this particular sort of print blob, if you will, this is on every single copy I could find. So this, to me, if anyone spent time before they graded my card, they would know that that's just part of this particular card. Quick look at the back, no gum stains, no weirdness going on back there. But at the end of the day, we got a 6. All right, next card is a 1976 Topps Brian Sipe rookie card. Brian Sipe was a quarterback for the Browns for many years, and I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, so I thought, maybe I have access to a good market for this card. I thought it was a pretty clean copy, with the exception of top to bottom. Centering, you definitely have extra down here, but overall, as far as like the picture and the crispness of the card, these corners are maybe not laser sharp, but they're in pretty good condition. Frankly, I'll take the 8 on this one, and it shouldn't have too much trouble selling it. Not a huge return as an 8, but it's a win, certainly, with some of the other things in this batch. Next up, we got a 1969 Topps Don Sutton. This one got a 6. I thought that this was a pretty nice card. I wouldn't put this much below a 7. You do have corners. Again, they're not laser perfect. And you do have this side being thicker than this side from a centering. But man, for 1969, this is a pretty clear picture with no imperfections on the front. So, it'll make a nice collectible for somebody. However, from an RI standpoint, not really the best return. All right, here we have a 1976 Topps Rod Carew. This one, from a centering aspect, top to bottom, again, the bottom's a little thin, but this is a nice, clean copy of this card. Great colors, great picture. You can even see like the pixelation of the picture. So I thought it was great. I thought this was an 8 all day. Unfortunately, I got the 7. Here's a picture of the back. And it just is what it is. All right, next up is 1972 Topps Joe Namath. This is a really cool card, regardless of the 7 I got. Again, I probably had it as an 8, especially 1972 football card. You can see, this is a little thicker over here, so definitely some, centering concerns. But you had 4 sharp corners, and fantastic quality, color quality of the photo, no blur, no nothing. Definitely disappointed. If I would have gotten an 8, this probably would have made the batch, because I think 8s are in like the 175 range, something like that. However, we got stuck with the 7. Ultimately, it'll make a great collectible for somebody. However, for the time, money, and effort that I put into it, it will likely be barely profitable. There's a picture of it horizontally. Again, great picture. Who knows? I might even keep this one just because you just don't see cards like this out in the wild in good condition. Quick look at the back. All right, last one here, 1976 Topps Kent Teaklevey. And if you're a longtime Pirates fan, you probably know Kent Teaklevey, and he moved into the closer role, occupied that for many years, was very successful. I'm not sure if he's Hall of Fame. This isn't a huge card. Like, I think even if you hit a 10 on this 1976 Topps, it would probably be like $1,000, which would be awesome, of course. But, he's not a huge star, but certainly in Pittsburgh, there will be people who appreciate this. I really liked this card when I sent it in. I thought this was upwards of a 9, in my opinion. The only thing that sort of came up was down here, if in this green area, there's a print dot. That is not an indentation. That's just, poor printing from the 70s. There's another one, and you can probably see some ink bleed, at different, almost like speckles of ink bleed at different spots around the card. However, overall, this is a great looking 1976 card. But again, from an ROI standpoint, it's going to be minimal for me. All right, switching over to the sort of math / expected return, the Tom Seaver. The price I paid with shipping, if I bought it from eBay, was $17. Grading's $25. Total cost of $42. I got a 6 on that card. It will likely sell somewhere between $25 and $30, and that will not trickle down directly into my wallet. There'll be fees and everything else. So seemingly a net loser on the Tom Seaver. Don Sutton, 69 Topps. Total cost with grading of $30. That's going to be another one, especially at a 6, that's going to land in that $25 bucket. So another net loser. Then we have Brian Sipe rookie card, total expenditure of $37. You got an 8, which is, okay. It'll sell for $50 to $60, so, it's a minor win, I guess, if you look at it across the lot. It was a positive, which is good, but not enough to carry, the whole submission. Rod Carew, 76, total cost of $36. I got a 7. It's going to be in that $25 land. You really, in 76, you really needed to get up, 8 plus to kind of make the process worth it, and that didn't happen here. All right, Kent Teaklevey, total cost of $41. We got the 8. That will hopefully sell for around $50, but it won't be a net $50. So it could be profitable by $9, but likely not after all the percentages and fees. Now, Rod Carew, 1977, we didn't show that. That got minimum size requirement. I wish I would have taken a picture because I actually measured it, and I didn't see anything. I measure them all before I send them, but whatever. I got the red flag. So, $41. I did get the refund on grading, so I should take that money out of the total cost. But, that's just going to go back into a raw sale. Or maybe if I collect enough min size, I might just send them to a different place and see what happens. Who knows? All right, last one is Joe Namath, 72 Topps, total cost of $40. Got a 7 on that. That will sell for about $60, not including fees. So maybe I make $20 on the Joe Namath. All right, now if you watch the other videos, you can see a trend here. If I'm shooting for 8s and hoping maybe for 9s, I'm way off in my analysis of these vintage cards prior to sending them in. And it's costing me time and it's costing me money. Now, I do have a few more vintage submissions still in the hopper, still at PSA, but I've really had to kind of rethink this process. And over the past 30 to 45 days or so, in this kind of like holiday shopping time, I've done a lot more ultra modern cards, particularly on the baseball side. So we'll see if I can fare a little bit better there. But, this isn't necessarily working, right? Because I'm not submitting, I'm submitting cards I like, but I'm not submitting cards for my, personal collection here. I'm like very specifically scouting out things to grade and resell, and right now those results have been mixed. I forgot to capture it on video, but if we went back to this submission today, my projected sales from this lot, I think were like 245, and the actual costs were about 265. I think it was 267 as a matter of fact. So, all that time and effort, to be basically negative 20 like, is about what it comes down to. So that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? That's ultimately a fool's errand. So, I've pivoted in some ways. I noticed that when I go through my grades that I've had the worst luck, so to speak, pre-1980. And then the things that I've done much better on have been sort of 1984 and beyond. I had a couple Wayne Gretzky's that did okay that were like 1981. And I had a couple Marinos and a John Elway rookie that did okay, and those were 1984. So I'm going to have to start thinking about, how much more I'm going to dig into the 70s, even though I love those cards. I love looking at those cards. I love the stars. But for the price people are charging for nice copies, they're basically putting stickers on them like they're PSA 8's or 9's. And, at least in my experience, that is not reality. And I would never in a million years pay PSA 8 or 9 price for a raw card. Ultimately, people can do whatever they want with their own cards, but me going forward on scouting vintage, extremely strict on what I'm going to pick up. If the eBay pictures aren't great, if it's not out of a case, if it does, just if there's any questions in my mind, it's a pass. And then, of course, the price. I am not going to be paying. I'm going to pay compared to raw, basically. So the likelihood with that mindset is I'm not going to find a ton of cards in the 70s or maybe even the early 80s now that I'm getting a lot more strict about it. All right, guys, that's the latest update. Don't forget you can check out the eBay store for some of these cards. I hope everybody's doing well. We'll see you on the next video.